This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
You know, there have been many good days in Donald Trump's first 130 days of his second term, but I don't think there were any better than yesterday, June 10th, day 130 of Trump 2.0. It is, there's so much winning. I'm not sure where to begin. Inflation is down. The stock market at the moment is up. There have been no ICE agents or Marines or National Guardsmen killed yet. There's a few injuries. But I think the most important thing we've learned in the last 5 days is what we've seen for the last 5 days is the result of an open border, is the result of an immigration policy that every single elected Democrat supports. Let them all in. Just bring them all in. We brought in 20 to 25 million under Joe Biden, and we're seeing now the results. We're seeing the kind of people they've allowed into our country. They want you to believe that Donald Trump and ICE and Tom Homan are instilling fear in the communities. Does what we've seen over the last 5 days in LA and now in New York and Chicago and so many and Seattle, does that look like fear to you? Do these look like people who are afraid, who are hiding in the shadows? Sure, they're hiding in the shadows while they're lighting Molotov cocktails and firing them at ICE agents and LAPD. We'll get to that. We'll get to the mostly peaceful protest that is still raging in LA. But what you've seen is the result of Democrat policies, of Democrat positions. This is what they want for your country. And I think it's going to open a lot of people's eyes. We can't live like this. We can't sustain this. This doesn't work. This is why Donald Trump is in office, and this is why he's not stopping. This is why the National Guard and the Marines are in LA. Most people look at that and they say, good. That's what we need. We have to act. We have to protect our country. We cannot allow this to spread. Do you think right now a lot of people are saying, gee, that policy of closing the border, of deporting gang members and murderers and rapists, you think that's cruel, heartless? Do you think that's un-American? The more you hear from Democrats who, again, except for John Fetterman, all support this. They are all on the side of the rioters. They're all on the side of the anarchists, the masked marauders who are wreaking havoc in LA and other cities. They have the support of the governor in LA. They have the support of the mayor. They have the support of the elected congressmen and senators in that state. You want that in your state? Do you want that in 50 states? I don't think so. I think if they had an election today, I don't care who the Democrats run, Trump would be affirmed again. The Trump policies would be supported again. Here's the problem Democrats have. It's been said many times. We said it in 2024. We said it before that. They had a mission. They had a responsibility, and it was simple. Just stop being crazy. Just stop being so radical. Just stop taking the 20 position in the 80-20 issues. Did they learn anything on November 5th? Absolutely not. They are today, June 11th, crazier than ever. They're so outside the mainstream. It is something to behold. What you've had over the last 5 days is Democrats and the media looking you in the eyes and lying to you. You have the mayor of Los Angeles. She was just on MSNBC. I watched, blaming Trump, saying this wouldn't have happened if they didn't have ICE raids in her city on Friday. Well, as we've told you for 3 days now, the ICE raids netted 45 hardened criminals, including a man who shot an 18 and a 15-year-old kid dead, an illegal alien from Vietnam. That's who they grabbed on Friday. And the mayor says if they just stop conducting these raids, there would be no unrest. There'd be no rioting. So she wants a guy who killed a 15-year-old kid to roam free in her city? That is the stance of the mayor of the city. Just let this killer go. Just let him live his life and everything would be fine. Well, I think most Americans look at that and they say, I want him. I want him captured. I want him detained. I want him deported. What decent person wants that man to go free in this country right now? That's the position of Democrats. Just let them go and there'll be no unrest. They are rationalizing, justifying this uprising, this violence. And they're blaming Trump for doing what he promised to do, for doing what the majority of Americans voted for. Are you on the side of Karen Bass, of Maxine Waters, of Rachel Maddow, these absolute lunatics who are standing there and defending open borders, who are defending letting these people into our country to wreak havoc, to cause violence, to loot? There's been 23 stores in LA looted, destroyed. In the name of what? Protecting illegal aliens like the guy who killed a 15-year-old kid in LA? That's what you believe, Democrats? That's what you're standing on? That's what you're fighting for? It's got to the point where all you can do is laugh at these lunatics, these radicals who are fighting for criminals to remain free in our country. You have a congresswoman. Now, granted, she's a pathetic old hag, and it's just an awful, horrible person. Maxine Waters was on the front lines. We showed you, tried to get into the ICE facility. They shut the door in her face. Good. She was out there berating ICE agents and National Guardsmen. Well, I guess she went back to Washington to tell her story. This is an actual congresswoman telling you there's no violence, as if there's no cameras, as if we're not watching every night. We'll show you. We'll show you some of the videos. It's remarkable. It's the meme. This is Kevin Bacon. This is Leslie Nielsen. Remain calm. All is well. She tells you, she looks in the camera and tells you there's no violence. This is a remarkable clip. Go ahead.
Protests, and even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Don't rely on the few incidents that you saw. There's no violence. That's the position of a congresswoman who represents the district, whose district is being ravaged by violence. All right, no violence. Here's a couple of scenes from LA. Here you go. This is a new one. This is amazing. Here you have an illegal alien from Mexico. The camera is on him the whole time. He has Molotov cocktails at his feet, if you're just listening. He's hiding behind a tree. He's masked, black hoodie, face mask. He's got a Molotov cocktail. He walks up. He's planning his attack here. The ICE agents or the LAPD is right around the corner, and he is plotting and planning as he goes here. This is a previously deported gang member, Emiliano Garduno Galvez. So the cops have some suspicion here. They start moving in on the group. He goes behind the tree, grabs his Molotov cocktail. He has a lighter in his hand. He tested it. Look at this punk. This is who Democrats want in your country. This is who they let in your country, a guy who's been previously deported. This video is incredible. So the cops start moving in. All the people are backing up. The cops, they look like LAPD. They have their guns. Maybe they're paintball guns, but they have guns drawn. He takes the Molotov cocktail and fires it at them and then runs. They grab him. They arrest him. This just breaking from Bill Malusian in Fox News. DHS confirms that ICE arrested a previously deported illegal alien from Mexico who was caught on video throwing a Molotov cocktail at law enforcement during the riots in Los Angeles. Emilio Garduno Galvez will be charged with attempted murder. He was previously arrested in Long Beach for DUI and grand theft in Anaheim. There he is. This the guy Joe Biden let in your country, previously deported, came back in. And because ICE is doing their job, this absolute piece of human filth is throwing a Molotov cocktail on camera at ICE agents. What does Maxine Waters say? Does she care that this guy wanted to kill cops? Of course not. No violence. Don't believe that video, says Maxine Waters. We also have this. Get the guy taking a shot. We have a guy with a gun, a rioter, a mostly peaceful demonstrator, hiding around a corner here in that one spot with the big donut, which is like the epicenter of the violence. He's hiding around the corner. He comes out. Here he is, pulls up a gun. He's got both hands on his handgun and starts firing. He's shooting at cops on video. Don't believe that, says a congresswoman. Don't believe that. There is no violence. And one more. That is literally a guy with a gun shooting at cops. Thank God we got cell phone cameras and we get this all on video. Imagine how much they would lie if we didn't have the video, if we didn't see with our own eyes as they loot and burn and shoot at cops. Here's a woman, a genius. This is what we're dealing with, a criminal genius. On a motorcycle, she comes across a crowd of cops and just runs right into them, just hits the gas and right at the cops. Boom, hits a cop on the motorcycle. They take her down. She jumps off after she hits the cops. They grab her. They arrest her. She's wearing a green shirt with the number 33. Is that a Larry Bird shirt? I need to know. That is a woman who rides her motorcycle into the cops. And Democrats, the media, are going to keep telling you, mostly peaceful. There she is, handcuffed, hogtied on the sidewalk. What the hell is going on in LA? Again, this is different from any riot we've seen before. Or maybe it's got a lot in common with the George Floyd riots in Minnesota for one reason. You have a governor who's with the rioters, a mayor who's with the rioters, a congresswoman who tells you they're mostly peaceful. There is no violence. Remain calm. There is one difference and it's a good difference in the George Floyd riots. They're both based on lies, by the way. The 2020 Summer of Love, the 500 riots we saw was based on the lie that George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin. This is based on the lie that ICE is after innocent children and families who are just trying to make a living and shooting 15-year-old kids. That's all. We don't want them in our community. You think the store owners want them in their community? Do you think the woman that owned the jewelry store who was looted 2 nights ago and lost everything, you think she wants them in their community? Get that video. This is another one. No violence, says Maxine Waters. Mostly peaceful, says everybody on MSNBC and CNN. A woman, she looks like she might have been an immigrant. Doesn't matter. She's a store owner. She's literally trying to make a living. And the scum destroyed. Here's her store. Just destroyed. Everything gone. Ripped down the freaking walls of this store. And look at her, exasperated. Just on camera. Look at this, nothing left. They destroyed the store of this woman and 22 other stores, by the way. And she's asked about it. And she says, like, a lifetime of work gone. She's probably, if not a first generation, second generation immigrant. They ruined her life. And she has to listen to her own congresswoman, her own mayor, say that this isn't happening. that this is just a result of Trump. By the way, we're talking about lies. The ICE raids were on Friday. The National Guard wasn't called in till Monday. Most of the damage was done on the weekend. It had nothing to do with the National Guard, nothing to do with Trump. And the raids, again, got killers, rapists, murderers. Of course they're coming after them. If you're not going to arrest them, we are, says Trump. And that is the result of Trump. That store destroyed, this woman's life destroyed. The good news, we always like to look at the good news here. The good news is America, I believe, is waking up. People are seeing this and saying the Democrat Party has lost their freaking minds. There's a number of issues on which they are completely lost, and we've gone over them. We'll get to the Simone Biles and Riley Gaines dust up, which is, again, the Democrats doubling down on insanity. That's what they're doing right here. They're digging in. They're defending this. They're blaming Trump when we all have eyes and we could see what is going on. We could see the result of Joe Biden's open border. That's it. A jewelry store destroyed, neighborhoods on fire, guys throwing Molotov cocktails at cops, shooting at cops. That's what's going on. And the media and the Democrats are on the side of the criminals. Again, they've learned nothing. And they're going to do this. They're going to just lie. That's all they do is lie to you. Here is Rachel Maddow going on an unhinged rant explaining how Americans don't support the Trump agenda here, don't support deportations, don't support ICE. It is a lie, but she doesn't care. She's enraged. They're all enraged. You know why? Because it's working. Because the people are with Trump on this and they can't stand it. Listen to this insane woman.
Somebody convinced this president that attacking immigrants would work for him politically. Somebody convinced him that the American people would be bloodthirsty about that we'd love it, that the crueler he was to immigrants, the more political capital he would accrue. Instead, what we are seeing is the opposite. In town after town, in blue states and red states, in school after school, in parish after parish, in city after city, it has run him into a wall. Because the American people do not want this kind of cruelty against the immigrants who live among us and are our neighbors and friends. And facing that kind of heart and that kind of resolve and that kind of non-violent, good cheer, I could do this forever kind of spirit, he has no idea what to do. Remember in his first term when the hurricane was coming and he said he wanted to nuke it? He wanted to hit the hurricane with a nuclear bomb? That's the genius level that we're dealing with here, right? Great idea, genius. Now in his second term, he is trying the equivalent. He has no idea what to do with the sustained and growing and intractable and indomitable protest and opposition of the American people against him. And so he has decided to try to fix it by using the army. Sure. Game over, big guy, you lose.
Game over, you lose. What freaking world? This is an icon to the left. She is their biggest star. She still works one night a week, makes $20 million.
Yeah, for now.
Game over, you lose? The public is overwhelmingly supportive of this. The number, if you ask, do you want criminal illegal aliens who've committed crimes like the 45 who were grabbed in that raid on Friday, it's like 95%. It's not 80-20, it's like 95-5 who want them removed. Most people want them all removed. Democrats want them removed, and even immigrants. The great Harry Enton comes through again on CNN. Harry Enton, their poll guy, this wacky theater kid, he's shocked. And again, he's probably shocked because they allowed this to air on CNN. But it's not just Republicans. It's everybody who supports this. And you have the biggest star on the left wing MSNBC saying, game over, big guy. You lose. How did he lose? Exactly. In what way did he lose Rachel, can you explain that? Because a bunch of feral animals are running the streets, setting fires and looting stores. You think the public looks at that and says, "Oh no, I'm against arresting them. I'm against stopping them. I'm against using the National Guard to protect federal buildings from these savages"? Sure, he loses. What? That is amazing that she wrote that, said that, and aired that. Here is Harry Enton saying even immigrants support Trump's immigration policy. Check this out.
Start off on the fact that immigrant citizens, immigrant voters, foreign-born voters have gone tremendously to the right on this issue in 2024 and 2025 versus where they were in 2020. Closest to or trust more in immigration. You go back to 2020. Democrats, get this, held a 32-point lead on this issue. Immigrant voters were in the Democratic camp. Jump forward to 2024, 2025. Look at that shift, a 40-point shift to the right among immigrant voters. Republicans now lead on this issue by 8 points over Democrats, more so than any other group that I could find. The group of voters who became more hawkish on immigration were in fact immigrants themselves, immigrants who are registered to vote in this country.
Well, that's on that issue.
That's one election cycle, 2020 to 2024. One election cycle, plus 32 for Democrats to plus 8 for Republicans among immigrants. That would be legal immigrants, which is a distinction Democrats and the media refuse to make. Rachel Maddow, she knows we're talking about illegal immigrants. She knows that, but she lies. That's all they do. They lie to you. They tell you that people, because there's a bunch of illegal aliens running wild in the street, that the public, the people, that 330 million Americans are turning on Trump. It is just the opposite. That is just an amazing clip. We got to save that from Rachel Maddow. Just that. I mean, that's what they do. She shows up at work, once a week or whatever, looks in the camera and lies to you. What Trump is doing, what ICE is doing, is the reason he got elected. The number one reason: get these people out of our country. We can't keep it. We can't continue to do this. This isn't working. We want them gone. And the public voted for that. They support that. And Democrats are once again on the losing side of an issue that is overwhelmingly popular in this country. Speaking of lies, we got to get to the biggest lie. You know what? There's a competition right now for who's the biggest liar in the Democrat Party, but it's going to be tough to beat Gavin Newsom. He got caught in just the most brazen lie. He is just that. Again, more good news. Gavin Newsom for president in 2028 isn't going to happen. Every day, every car that's set on fire, they are also setting on fire the Newsom for president campaign. It isn't going to happen. People in this country are getting a good look at this sleazy, slick, lying piece of crap. We'll get to that. And of course, we got two big apologies. We got Elon Musk and we got Simone Biles. We'll get to that and more. But first,
Excuse me.
if you've ever searched for your name or address on Google, it's shocking to find how many results have your personal information, and it's not by chance. Data brokers and people search sites, collect your personal information, your name, address, phone number, financial info, income, and hundreds of other records. They sell it and share it publicly without your consent. But Incogni is here to put an end to that. It hunts down these unethical sites and gets your info removed from the places that expose your private information. You don't have to email anyone, fill out forms, or jump through hoops. They handle the entire process for you. Incogni is also continually monitoring if your data is put back into these databases, requesting repeated removals. This way, it keeps them off there forever. So you get fewer spam calls, spam emails, and you get more peace of mind. And best of all, you can cancel anytime, and they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can get it completely risk-free. Right now, you get 60% off an annual plan by going to incogni.com and use code word Callahan. That's incogni, incogni.com/Callahan, and use the code word Callahan at checkout. You get 60% off and protect your data for an entire year. You know why? Democrats, Bass and Newsom, are so upset that the National Guard has been deployed in LA. You know, the last time the National Guard was deployed in LA? During COVID, because Gavin Newsom deployed the troops for COVID testing to help test people for COVID. This is a governor who locked down his state like, I would say no other governor, but all Democrat governors locked down their state. This is a guy that had people arrested for, paddle boarding, who used backhoes and bulldozers to plow, to push sand, fill skate parks with sand because he didn't want kids out there riding skateboards during COVID. This is a man who wrote the book on tyranny, authoritarianism during COVID. They went to extremes during COVID. Now that the National Guard is there to protect the LAPD, protect federal buildings, to quell the rioting, that's, in his mind, that's a bridge too far. You can't do that. That's authoritarianism. So Trump said he talked to Newsom the other night. I think it was Saturday morning. And he said, he's incompetent, whatever. He talked about deploying the National Guard. The call was 16 minutes long. Gavin Newsom, once again, looked into the camera and lied, said there was no phone call. I watched the interview with MSNBC, and he said, nope, did not talk to the president. Once again, they'll lie about anything. Doesn't Gavin, he's an idiot, but doesn't he know that, telephones, cell phones have little things on them that show when phone calls are made? This is amazing. There's nothing better than watching a politician get caught in a flat out lie. Again, you're going to believe him when he says anything else after he gets caught in such an obvious lie? Check this out.
Trump. Gavin Newsom, after President Trump said in the noon hour in the Oval Office that he called him yesterday or the other day, Gavin Newsom tweeted the following. He said, quote, "There was no call, not even a voicemail. Americans should be alarmed that a president deploying Marines on our streets doesn't even know who he's talking to." Well, President Trump contacted me from Air Force One on his way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where he'll be in just a little while. He said the first call to Gavin Newsom was not picked up. The second call Gavin picked up. We spoke for 16 minutes. I told him to essentially, quote, and this is quoting the president, "get his ass in gear and stop the riots, which were out of control more than anything else. This shows what a liar he is." Said I never called. So here is the evidence. And here is the call log that the president sent me from his phone. This was June the 7th. Now, granted, this was on Saturday, but look, there's 1:22 o'clock in the morning, which would have been 10 o'clock at night, 10:22 at night, California time. There was an outgoing call for 4 seconds, and then there was an outgoing call for 16 minutes. So that from the president, which says is proof that he spoke to Gavin Newsom early in the morning, our time, late at night, Friday night, would have been June 6th, I guess, in Los Angeles. So
there it is. Gavin Newsom just flat out lied. You know what's amazing? Trump's making phone calls at 1:23 in the morning and telling Gavin Newsom to get his ass in gear. And I guarantee you Trump was posting at 6 in the morning, 6, 7 in the morning. He's 79 years old in a couple days, and the man doesn't rest, doesn't sleep. That is amazing. He is just on such a roll. The event at Fort Bragg was amazing. You had hundreds of paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne. You had Green Berets rappelling out of choppers. It was an amazing display. There's going to be that parade on Saturday, which has got a lot of people feeling icky. We're going to have a military parade, just like North Korea. It's going to be great. It's going to be, you're going to have split screens on Saturday. Get ready. There's going to be rioting in a lot of cities. That's the big day when all of the smaller blue cities try to keep up with LA. There's these punks, these Antifa punks in New York and Boston and all over the country who are saying, we want to be part of this. They're making their signs. They're digging out their hoodies and their keffiyehs right now, getting ready for Saturday. You're going to have that on one side of the screen, and you're going to have this amazing military parade celebrating our military, and it's going to be just incredible. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. All right, let's check that one off. What a day for Trump. What a day. He just is on a roll right now. Let's get to the, you know what I want to do before we get to the dueling apologies? We got so much here. I could do 3 hours today. Get that cell phone thing, the iPhone. We saw them loot the Apple store. You know, those peaceful protesters loot the Apple store a couple nights ago. This is, they didn't quite get away with it like they think they did. These are some of the cell phones that were stolen from the Apple store. This isn't quite on the level of the Israeli operation where they rigged the pagers, Hezbollah pagers, with explosives, the most targeted attack in the history of warfare. This isn't quite at that level. They didn't explode, but they set off alarms and said they're not usable, and they said return to the store. This is great. Check it out. What happens to a stolen iPhone? There the cops coming running. Now, if they could just get Air Jordans to set off an alarm, stolen Air Jordans, or maybe, stolen jewelry. Look at that. All stolen iPhones. It literally says on them, this was stolen, returned to the Apple store. And that's what they're doing. That is great. Good on Apple for pulling that off. All right. I didn't even get to the China deal. Donald Trump announced the China deal today amidst all this other news, this avalanche of news. Donald Trump announced the China deal. Makes me a little nervous because we'll just read it. He posted early this morning. What time was this, Ironhead? I'm just fascinated by this man. He does not rest. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval of President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied upfront by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We're getting a total of 55% tariffs. China's getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. That is amazing. He's announcing a deal where we get 55%, they get 10% with China. That's the big deal. That's the big one. The rest are going to follow. The one problem I have right there is we're going to allow them to use our universities. As we mentioned last week, a Chinese student is obligated to spy for the CCP. I hope it includes the list. When he stopped the money going to Harvard, he said, we need to see their list. We need to know who they're admitting. They're not an immigration office. They don't get to decide whoever bring into anyone in the country they want. So as long as we get the list and we get to see who's coming into the universities, that's cool. That's fine. But we can't just allow them to continue what they're doing. Let anybody in the country. Certainly we can't let University of Michigan do that, or Stanford, where we know there have been China spies operating. But the deal is done, the big deal. And that's just, another news item on this crazy day in this crazy time. Also, another huge W for Donald Trump. This was posted, I believe, early this morning. Elon Musk essentially said, I screwed up. I have a feeling this might be a Terry Moran deal. Musk posts at 3 a.m. He's just like Trump. I'm telling you, these two don't stop. I regret some of my posts about President Donald Trump last week. They went too far. That's a big step. These two are going to make up. I don't think it'll ever be the same where they're just best buds hanging out at the White House, hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. I don't think he still has a room at Mar-a-Lago, but that's big right there. Trump played this so well. In fact, I was shocked. Trump never
Absolutely stunned he didn't open his mouth.
Trump, we don't say this often, showed incredible restraint. He never mentioned the rumored drug use by Musk. He never went really below the belt like he often does. He held back. He held his fire and he waited, and now he gets the apology. If you call that an apology, you get Musk admitting he was wrong to go there. He was wrong to mention the Epstein files and take those shots at Trump and say and support or repost somebody that wanted Trump impeached. He went too far. He admits it. And Trump is still not going there. He sat down with Miranda Devine and, of course, was asked about Musk. And I'm telling you, I think he's handled this great. He can't come out and say, yeah, everything's cool. I love Musk. We're hanging out this weekend at the military parade. He is transactional. You know, people like to think he's impulsive, and sometimes he is impulsive, and sometimes he can be obnoxious, but he's transactional. He looks at this and says, what works best for me as I try to run the country, as I lead the free world? And he knows a real feud, a real nasty feud with Musk doesn't help. He's pissed, he's seething, but he held back. He held his fire, which is really impressive and surprising. Here he is talking about Musk with Miranda Devine.
And what happened with Elon? Is there anything that you can do to forgive him? Could you see that happening?
Well, look, I have no hard feelings. You know, I was really surprised that happened. He went after a bill that's phenomenal. It's the best thing we've ever signed in this country, and that's phase one. Phase two, phase three. All of a sudden is, it all comes together. It's coming together so well. And when he did that, I was not a happy camper. So it's too bad.
You said he had problems. What kind of problems? I mean, is it the drugs?
I don't know what his problem is, really. I don't know. I haven't thought too much about it in the last little while. And
he just didn't get that.
I think he feels very badly that he said that, actually.
And maybe it was something else. I mean, he had the fight with Scott Besson outside your office.
Yeah, well, they had not a fist fight, people, but I guess they had a little bit of a shouting match. But
Did you hear it?
That's typical. I heard a little bit. That's sort of typical about, that happened.
There you go. She hands it to him on a platter. Is it the drugs? And he wouldn't go there. That is shocking to me. That really is. But he knows this isn't Rosie O'Donnell we're talking about. This is Elon Musk. He needs him. They have to get along. They don't have to be friends, but he can't have Musk as an enemy. And he knows Musk screwed up, and he just let it play out. That's incredible. Musk, I'll just say, maybe he had his Terry Moran moment, which brings us to another story. Terry Moran, we've talked about the fraud, the fake news fraud from ABC, who's been lying to the public for 30 years, pretending to be a journalist, just a journalist, just a reporter. ABC fired him. As I said yesterday, they had no choice. They had to fire him. He couldn't go back to pretending to be a journalist. He had the drunken rant at midnight Saturday about Stephen Miller and Donald Trump, and it was just insane, talking about how hate nourishes them. We talked about it the last couple of days. ABC suspended him initially, and now he is fired. Here's the story. ABC News was left with, quote, no alternative but to let longtime correspondent Terry Moran go over his now deleted X post attacking President Trump and top White House aide Stephen Miller. Quote, it's just sad, honestly. It's said a ABC staffer to Fox News. It's sad for him, a longtime colleague, friend, and good family man. It's just unfortunate, but there was no alternative, especially in these times. Exactly. That's what we said yesterday. He couldn't go back to work. I mean, guys have recovered from scandals. The CNN hired back Jeffrey Toobin after he was caught yanking it on a Zoom call with colleagues. But that wasn't about journalism. That wasn't about his credibility. Obviously, he's a deviant. And people have recovered from scandals, but you don't recover from a scandal when you expose yourself as a fraud, as a total fraud, and a liar who pretended to be a journalist when in fact you're a fanatical partisan, you're a leftist and a Trump hater. And for some reason, he was able to pull it off. I mean, I don't know why George Stephanopoulos is still there. I don't know why any of these people, Margaret Brennan, are still there. Obviously, they're Trump haters, but they didn't have drunken rants at midnight. So good riddance to Terry Moran. This story says he made between 600 and 900,000 a year. So the guy was making maybe 900 grand a year, and he threw it all away in one drunken rant. Man, if that isn't, they are sending out memos at all these networks saying, put your phone, if you go out to dinner, have a couple cocktails, put your phone away. That's pretty basic, but Terry Moran learned the hard way. Good for ABC for firing his ass. let's get to the other big apology. Simone Biles, you knew this was coming, apologized for her rant against Riley Gaines, mocking Riley Gaines for supporting women in sports, for trying to keep men and boys out of women's locker rooms. And Riley Gaines fired back. Riley Gaines is so good at this. She really is. And Simone apologizes, and it's just so pathetic. Here's Simone, the 7-time Olympic medalist, perhaps the greatest gymnast we've ever seen, who wants men to compete against women in sports. Not her. She doesn't want them competing against her in gymnastics. She just wants them dominating in track and field and softball and other sports. She writes, I want to follow up my last tweets. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sports. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. My objection is to be singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. XOXO Simone. All right, whichever PR person issued this, wrote this, is an idiot. And Simone Biles, I mean, she posted it in her name, but put that back up there for me. I just want to point out a couple of really illogical, convoluted points she makes. Sports is not about inclusivity. It's just the opposite. It's competition. You get excluded if you don't win. I mean, this is just so dumb. And it's not complicated. She says these are sensitive, complicated issues. It's not complicated. Boys play with boys, girls play with girls. That's why there are girls' sports, to make it fair. They are girls' sports because boys are faster, stronger, better at sports. If you're going to allow boys and girls' sports, what's the point of having girls' sports? It's just, I mean, it's really not complicated. And the solution couldn't be simpler. Boys play with boys, girls play with girls. And she doesn't address the other part of this. She was the victim of the Larry Nassar, that creep who sexually abused many hundreds of children. She testified against him, and now she wants men in women's locker rooms. She wants boys in the girls' room. That's not complicated. You're just an idiot because you listen to Democrats and people in the media tell you it's about being sensitive and inclusive. It is not. It's not about equity. Sports isn't about equity. It's just the opposite. You compete. The best man wins in men's sports. The best woman wins in your sport. And conveniently, she never had to compete against men. You want to tell that to some girl in Minnesota who got struck out by a boy and lost her chance to win the state title? Say, oh, it's equity. We're just being equitable. And we don't want to hurt kids. Well, that's what the boys do. They hurt girls. They hurt kids. It didn't help. She just exposed herself, like most people, most Democrats on this issue, most liberals. They don't think it through. They say, oh, we just want to be fair and equitable. Well, you're being just the opposite. When boys play girls' sports, it's not fair. That's the whole point. You lose, Simone. I know you're not used to losing, although you do. You kind of know what it's like to quit when you quit on your team at the Olympics, but not going to help her cause. All right, a couple more quick things here because it's such a wild day. You remember LaMonica MacIver? She's that chubby congresswoman from New Jersey who was shoving ICE agents trying to get in the detention center. Well, bad news for LaMonica MacIver. It's not 2020 anymore. There will be consequences now, we hope. She was arrested. She's being charged with 3 counts of forcibly impeding and interfering with federal law enforcement officers. She's facing 17 years in prison. I gotta assume because she's a Democrat, she won't do a day, but she's been arrested, which is great news. This kind of behavior, it was obviously tolerated under Joe Biden. Obviously, if you're a Democrat, different rules, but it can't be we can't allow this. It's just like with the rioters. If you don't arrest them, which is what happened in 2020, you get more of it. If they don't arrest people in LA, and they've arrested hundreds, I believe Monday night there were 300 arrests. They'll just keep doing it. If you don't arrest them in LA, they'll do it in New York, in Boston, in Chicago. They have to be arrested. The guy who threw the Molotov cocktail, the guy who threw the rocks, they're still looking for him. He has to go away for a long time. They have to treat them like they treated the January 6th protesters. Facial recognition, FBI has to devote all resources to catching these people. Use everything in your arsenal to catch them, to lock them up, to deport them. There can be no mercy. That has to be the approach of the Trump administration to these people. They can't worry about what Rachel Maddow is going to say. They have to come down hard, or you're going to get more and more and more of it. One more thing. We got Kash Patel is suing this other fake news fraud, Frank Figliuzzi. He's their, national security correspondent at NBC. Figliuzzi made up a report about Kash Patel and said he's spending more time in nightclubs than he is in the FBI offices, which according to everybody is a lie. The guy's working nonstop, just like everybody on the Trump team right now. So he lies about him, says he's out partying. And normally there'd be no consequences. Well, times have changed. He's suing him, and I hope he goes through with it, follows through with it, because we know this guy just made that up. He's a total deep state snake who's upset that some of his friends have been fired, some of his friends at the FBI and the intelligence agencies. So he makes up a story about Kash. Does anyone really believe that? Does Kash Patel's, out at some nightclub at midnight when he's supposed to be hunting down criminals? So good for Kash. I hope he follows through with this. I hope we get discovery. I hope Figliuzzi, I hope NBC has to pay up, or at least Figliuzzi. I hope he busts him, financially. That would be good. All right. We're monitoring. There's no action in LA right now. It's 8 a.m. But they're going to keep coming. They're going to keep coming. There was a curfew last night. The mayor, who said there's no violence, it's just peaceful protest, implemented a curfew. Why would you implement a curfew if there's no violence? Can anyone explain that to me?
It's very simple. She's lying.
They're all lying. It's what they do. Here's the other good news. I've been waiting for this. The difference in 2020 rioting and now is they're not getting the support they got then. They're getting it from Rachel Maddow and the media, but you're not hearing a lot of celebrities. Katy Perry came out with a statement talking about how LA used to be Mexico, used to be part of Mexico. Yeah,
Gerry, you got that wrong. It's astronaut Katy Perry.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Astronaut in Mexico. Like, that makes any sense at all. Yeah, sure. It was part of Mexico 200 years ago. When, you know how many people lived in LA when we took Mexico, when we conquered? 15,000. That's how many people lived. It wasn't LA like we know it as LA, and you don't get to stay there because it used to be part of Mexico. That's just such a silly argument. But there's no corporate support. You don't have people like Steve Carell and John Cena sending money to the rioters. That's what they did in 2020. They sent money to Black Lives Matter so they could buy mansions. But you don't have people, using their little Instagram, avatars, their bios, posting Mexican flags and supporting the rioters. That's a good thing. That is progress. They don't have nearly the support they did 5 years ago, and that's wonderful. Oh, and one more thing. This is another quote that should live forever. Nancy Pelosi, another Democrat, lying about what's happening in LA. She attributed the uprising, the violence, to The exuberance of the moment. That's what it is. The exuberance of the moment. It's kind of like what you said, MS-13 gang members have a spark of divinity. God, these people are just...
So if you're handcuffed to your gay lover and you smash him over the head with a hammer, is that exuberance of the moment?
Yes, that was just exuberance of the moment. That they blamed that on Trump too, an illegal alien, radical lunatic, mentally ill vagrant beat her husband with a hammer. That was Trump's fault too, but because of the rhetoric. But we should go out with one more montage from the mainstream media who will just keep lying. I mean, it's just remarkable. Like we don't have phones and computers and TVs. Like we're not watching this in real time. Thank God for all those citizen journalists who are pulling out their cameras and catching people throwing Molotov cocktails, shooting guns at cops. We see it, Dana Bash. We could see with our own eyes. But why don't we go out with one more montage of the flurry of lies these people are telling because one thing only, Trump, that's all. If Trump's against it, they have to be for it. Trump's against violent rioting, attacking cops, looting stores, so they're for it. They are for it. Here you go.
The LA County Police say that they have it under control. Carrying a flag is not illegal, as you know. What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
Video after video has shown that these agents are the ones provoking protesters and also making up, aggression by these protesters that later video shows people were not aggressive.
We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
The unrest is isolated. LA is home to millions of people. Most of them are having a normal day here on Sunday.
You've heard reports that there are riots on the streets of Los Angeles. That is not what's happening across the city of Los Angeles.
Governor Newsom's right. There wasn't anything like a riot happening on Friday, Saturday.
We just witnessed a protester thanking a National Guardsman for his service here in California.
LAPD, by most estimates, had this under control last night.
No, I don't think the National Guard is needed now. Things in LA are calm. There was a protest that got a little unruly late at night.
There have been no violence where anybody that was protesting hit anybody, shot anybody, threatened anybody. Nothing has happened.
What